Welcome back, my friend. You came back. That means you remember the way the night feels when everything else is asleep. Tonight, I have 3 stories for you. All of them begin the same way, in places that were supposed to be safe. An office, a grocery store, a quiet desk during a storm. Ordinary places, but the dark never cares about ordinary. So find your quiet spot. Lie down if you can. Let the sound of my voice slow your breath. You're safe here, for now. Now, let's leave the lights behind. Whatever you hear from this point on is between you and the dark. Ready? Let's begin the first story. Story 1. The Creepy Intern. Back when I was 20, I landed a summer internship at a small financial firm downtown. It wasn't glamorous. The elevators creaked, the break room smelled like old coffee and newer regrets, and every morning started with a sigh and ended with screen burn. The office smelled like coffee, ink, and air conditioning dust. Everything was beige, the cubicles, the carpet, even the people. There was no music, no windows that opened, just the low hum of fluorescent lights and the constant tapping of tired keyboards. There were 8 interns that summer. We sat in rows of grey fabric walls, our backs to one another, chipping away at spreadsheets no one would ever read. Nothing strange, until Alex arrived. He wasn't like the rest of us. Most of us dressed in polos and khakis, clung to coffee cups and hope. But Alex showed up in clothes that looked one size too large. Button-ups with creases like they'd been folded for years, dark slacks that hung like curtains. He was tall, awkwardly so, thin, with skin like stretched wax. His hair looked damp even when it wasn't. He smiled too easily and laughed at things that weren't jokes. At first, he seemed harmless, eccentric maybe. He'd mimic movie voices, recite lines like he was in some private audition. Then came the whispers. Not to you, behind you, low and fast, like a dare. Don't look behind you. He's right over your shoulder. It's crawling on the ceiling. Turn around. There he was, smiling, pretending to do something mundane, like stapling papers that weren't there. We laughed it off. We were 20, bored, and he was strange enough to be a story, until the phone call started. One night, I stayed late to finish a report. The office was hushed. Only the red glow of exit signs and my little desk lamp kept the dark back. Outside, the city blurred, lights like melting stars, cars like distant wails. Then a desk phone rang. No caller ID. I answered. A low voice, too low, said, "The tide's coming in. Pull your boat out of the water." Then static. A laugh, short, sharp, wet, and silence. My heart jackhammered in my chest. It was Alex's voice. I knew it. But he'd been fired a week ago. He'd followed an intern into the elevator, whispering about voices in the vents. Security had escorted him out. He was supposed to be gone. I told myself it was a prank, coincidence. But that night, walking home, the city no longer looked soft. It looked like teeth. Street lights flickered overhead, each one buzzing louder as I passed. Near my building, by the dumpsters, a shape, still, tall, watching. I didn't look long. Ran upstairs, locked the door, closed the blinds. At 2:13 a.m., a tap. Once, twice, 3 times. I peeked through the blinds. Alex, standing there, not smiling anymore. Mouth open, no sound. He raised his hand, pressed it against the glass. It trembled, just slightly. His lips moved. Working hard, or hardly working. Then he smiled. A smile that went too wide. Too many teeth. And then a sound, like a laugh, but deeper, like something scraping up his throat. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. No footprints, no footage. They said it could have been headlights, a trick of the wind. But I know, sometimes, late at night, my office phone rings. And all I hear is, the tide's coming in. You're doing fine. The first story's fading. Take a breath. In through your nose and out through your fear. There's another story waiting. Different place, same darkness. Story 2. Grocery store. Stalker. Fien. Ban Mo Rong. I was 17 and it was my first real job. Not babysitting, not scooping ice cream for tips. A real job. The grocery store tucked behind a highway exit in Vermont. Red bricks, flickering neon sign, and a parking lot that always seemed too big for how few cars it had. The kind of place where time felt slower. The buzz of the ceiling lights always lingered in your ears long after you went home. It smelled like citrus cleaner, warm bread, and sometimes old mop water. They played soft jazz overhead. Not cheerful, not sad, just there, like wallpaper for your ears. That's where I met Sean. He was 24, worked in dairy, always wore the same brown hoodie under his apron, no matter how hot it got. He didn't talk much, didn't smile unless someone was watching. He had this way of moving, not quiet, just slow. Like he'd already memorized the shape of every aisle. At first, he helped me with shelf tags, showed me which yogurt tubs were most likely to leak. He'd joke sometimes about how he liked the milk fridge because no one bothered him there. I laughed, nervously, because his eyes never did. Then came the texts. Simple at first. What time's your shift? You left your pen at register 2. Then, one night, you looked nice in red. I hadn't worn red. Not at work, not on social media, not anywhere Sean should have seen. I felt my stomach twist. Not in fear, but in that pre-fear. The kind your instincts whisper before your brain catches up. It got worse. He started mentioning my dog. Her name. How she limped a little when tired. He mentioned the curtains in my room. The kind only someone standing outside at night would notice. My skin began to itch when I walked to my car, like the air was watching. One night, after a late shift, the store was already dark. The lot was empty, except for my little silver hatchback. Under the wiper blade, a note. See you at home. Nothing else. No smudge, no signature. The ink was sharp, like the pen had been pushed hard enough to dent the paper. I took it inside, showed the manager. He furrowed his brow and checked the system. Said Sean had clocked out 4 hours earlier. No one had seen him since. That night, I left my window cracked. It was too hot to sleep otherwise. At 12:47 a.m., I heard the sound. A tap, soft, like a single fingernail on glass. Then, a whisper. Hey, you awake? The voice was right outside, low, measured. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I stared at the ceiling, my heart pounding in my neck. Then, silence. The next morning, a text. Did you sleep well? That was the last straw. I quit, filed a police report. They issued a restraining order. An officer drove by my house that week. They found tire tracks by the tree line, but no car, no prints, nothing. Sometimes now, even years later, I think about that note. See you at home. The way the letters pressed into the page, as if they weren't just written, but carved, like whoever left them wanted the words to stay long after I was gone. You're safe here. Let your breath even out. The night's grown quiet, but that doesn't mean it's empty. Let's move to the last story. Story 3. The Storm Office. I was 26, working in a small insurance office in Pennsylvania. It was the kind of place where the carpets were always slightly damp, even when it hadn't rained, where the windows never quite opened and the thermostat was more suggestion than function. The air smelled like stale toner and fake lemon cleaner. Time didn't move in that building. It sat still, the kind of stillness that doesn't feel peaceful, just heavy. Most of the desks were arranged in narrow rows, boxed in by low-grey partitions that absorbed sound and made your thoughts echo louder in your head. The fluorescent lights flickered sometimes, like they were breathing. No one ever really talked, just nods, emails, and the occasional birthday card passed around with generic messages. That day, a Thursday, a storm rolled in fast. I remember the air going still around 2 p.m., kind of stillness that makes your ears ring. Outside, the sky had turned the color of bruised concrete. Muted purple and green swirled in unnatural patterns. The wind picked up, and the manager stood from his office and called out the same line he always did when it looked bad outside. Get home before it gets messy. People started packing up, grabbing umbrellas and muttering about lightning apps. But I stayed. I had a backlog of claims to review, and I figured I'd rather ride it out there than sit in traffic with thunder rolling overhead. Tom stayed too. Tom from 2 rows over. Polite, soft-spoken, wore pressed shirts and a digital watch. The kind of man who smiled with his mouth, but never with his eyes. As the last co-worker left, Tom looked up from his monitor and said, "Looks like it's just you and me." There was a rumble of thunder. It didn't crash. It rolled, low, like something shifting beneath the ground. I smiled politely. "Guess we're the storm crew." He chuckled. "Storms don't bother me," he said, "but they do change things." I didn't ask what he meant. Didn't want to. Around 4:30, the power went out. Just like that. No warning, no flicker, just gone. The building sighed into shadow. The backup lights buzzed on. Small orange glows at the baseboards and a single emergency strip along the hallway ceiling. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. A narrow cone of light sliced the gloom. Tom stood at the far end of the hallway, motionless, facing me, still smiling. "Guess we'll have to wait it out," he said. But his voice didn't sound right. It echoed too long, like it had bounced off the walls before leaving his mouth. I turned toward the exit. The front door's electronic lock wouldn't budge. I jiggled the handle. Nothing. It spun in my grip like it was disconnected from anything real. Behind me, a soft sound, scrape, like something heavy being dragged across carpet. I turned. Tom was closer. No footsteps, no sound, just closer. His eyes reflected the flashlight, but not like normal. They didn't shine. They absorbed the light like deep water at night. "It's not safe out there," he whispered. My breath caught. "Then I'll take my chances," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He tilted his head. His neck moved too far, too smoothly. "People get lost in storms," he said gently. "Not all of them are found again." I backed down the hallway, past the cubicles, into the break room. I pushed the door shut behind me, pressed my weight against it. It didn't latch. I held it there with my whole body. Footsteps now, soft, measured, coming closer. I could hear my name, whispered through the thunder, not shouted, not urgent, just patient. The lights above flickered, buzzed, and then nothing. The door creaked open an inch. I jumped back, but no one was there. Only the smell of rain and something older, like wet soil, but deeper. The kind of smell that doesn't belong inside. I ran to the front again. The glass door had been shattered. Rain blew in sideways, coating the floor in muddy puddles. Outside, only one car remained. Tom's. The driver's door hung open. Keys dangled from the ignition. Wipers still moving, even though the storm had stopped. They never found him. Not a trace. Police said maybe he ran into the woods, panicked, lost his bearings. But he didn't strike me as someone who panicked. And no one ever explained why the door lock mechanism had been ripped out from the inside. Sometimes, when thunder rolls too close, I swear I hear my name again. A soft whisper just behind my ear. Wait, it's not safe to leave yet. And I stay awake, listening to the wind until the rain forgets me. 3 stories. One night. 3 people who learn that fear doesn't need monsters. It just needs silence and time. Some say the dark only hides what the daylight refuses to show. Either way, if you ever hear a voice whisper, hello, don't answer. Because sometimes the story isn't done with you yet. If you're still awake, you're one of us now. You've heard their stories, but the night keeps one just for you. Keep listening. The dark remembers.